Louise Regan National Officer Membership and Equality National Education Union. Thanks for joining us today.
No problem. It's very good to be here.
Thank you. So, as you know, dear Louis, about the Öcalan's isolation, it's been 28 months. The harsh isolation is getting deeper, and nothing has been heard from him. So, what are the reasons for the continued imprisonment and isolation of Mr. Abdullah Öcalan for you, first of all?
Well, I mean, I think that the reason that this is happening is because the government in Turkey, and probably Western governments as well, don't want his views to be shared, and keeping him in isolation stops him talking to people, stops him sharing those views, sort of isolates him from the communities that would be wanting his voice to be heard, and his philosophies, his beliefs, particularly around women's freedom and women's rights, actually, particularly given that they're under such massive attack at the moment in Turkey, to be shared. So I think it's a tactic that is being used to suppress that ideology of socialism, of women's rights and freedom, and also, you know, for workers, which is being used by the government there.
Thank you. Secondly, what does Turkey's backers in the West have to fear from Öcalan and his ideas?
I mean, I think it's clear, and we have seen this in other countries, that where we get socialist leaders into power, or near to being in power, that there is a huge backlash against that, and that is because ruling classes do not want people with socialist ideas, people who promote an equal and fair system, and people who promote women's rights and rights of all communities to be shared. So, you know, I think the Western, you know, governments feel that by suppression of his ideology supports them in maintaining their ideologies, which you know, which are against those sort of philosophies, against that socialist freedom that we would all want.
Thank you. It has been argued that Turkey imposes total isolation on Öcalan because it fears the consequences if his ideas influence the people. Exactly why are they seen as such a fundamental threat?
I mean, it's hard to argue, isn't it, that, you know, why would anybody be against socialism? Why would anybody be against women having equal rights? Why would anybody be against, you know, equality for all communities within the world that we live in? Unfortunately, people that are in power in governments across the world like to hold on to that power. They like to keep the wealth and the control with the very top small percentage of people. And by isolating him in the way that they have done, they are preventing that message being shared more widely. They, you know, that is their belief, that they're preventing that. It certainly has an impact on the ability for him to be able to promote the work that he has done and to develop that movement. So, you know, I think people are always frightened of change, of a different system, but they are particularly frightened when they see that they will lose the power and the wealth that they have gained because of the position that they are in.
The Abdullah Öcalan's situation, the isolation, which is one of the greatest tortures, and it's under the CPT's responsibility, which CPT is also an institution of the European Union and Council of Europe as well. So, how would you like to comment on that double standard and the silence about Öcalan's situation of the Western powers?
I mean, I think this is a situation here for, you know, in Turkey, for the Kurdish question, but also globally, really, we often see that we have this double standards where there are certain situations which they feel able to speak out against and talk about human rights abuses and try and put pressure on. But as you say, it appears that there is just silence and nobody is doing anything. I think there are a couple of reasons around that. One, I think I've already talked about, is that actually, you know, governments do not want this ideology, the philosophy that he believes in, to be shared. So so they will ignore his treatment because it doesn't, you know, meet with their expectations or their beliefs about how they want countries and governments to be running the situation. They don't want that freedom of expression for people. So I think there is that as an issue. And I think also that there always seems to be double standards where there are communities of people who maybe are people that our governments see as different, and they don't want to engage around that question. They say, you know, we're not dealing with that question because these people are, you know, are different. Often that what that equates to is a sort of semi-racist attitude towards people that aren't white.
Thank you, dear Louise. Lastly, shortly, can we get your Freedom for Öcalan message as well? What is your call? What is your message to free Abdullah Öcalan, and why?
Well, my message to everyone, to our government, to governments in Europe, but also to governments globally, actually, is that this is an unacceptable situation. It's an abuse of human rights, and that they should be putting pressure on the government in Turkey to release Öcalan now, because we are in a position where he, as you say, he has now been held, has not had access to people, has been isolated for an extremely long period of time, a completely unacceptably long period of time, and that actually, that, you know, that there are no charges that should mean that he is in that position, and actually he should be released. And, you know, so I send my solidarity to him and to all those campaigning for his freedom and release.
Louise Regan, National Officer, Membership and Equality, National Education Union. Thanks for joining us, and thank you for your valuable comments today.
No problem. Thank you very much.
Thank you.